You can't clot your blood.
As a result, he really didn't heal, and it got worse and worse and worse.
They told him that, you know, he pretty much only had 2 years left to live. And first he'd become a paraplegic, and then he'd become a quadriplegic, and then he would die. He didn't want us to suffer with him. So he went to this pond we used to drive out to. We used to skip rocks on it and stuff. And he put a hose in the exhaust and looped it back in, turned the car on, and went to sleep. And that was it. The only time I saw my mom cry, she looked at me and she's like, "Your dad went to heaven." And I just remember I couldn't feel my legs. Like, I couldn't walk.
Our whole world pretty much fell in.
He told everybody, and he told me that I was meant to be something extraordinary. You know, I was going to win the Olympics. I could be president. I could be anything. And before I got old enough to think that I knew everything, he died. So he kind of just left me with that. And I believed him, because when you're 8 years old, your dad's right about everything.
Rhonda got interested in judo about 9 or 10 years old. Rhonda's mother, Anna Marie, was the best of the best at her time. 1984, she won the Worlds.
Her mom, Anna Marie DeMars, the first American woman to win the World Championships in judo.
Yeah, I'd go up to people in tournaments and go up behind them and just like kick them in the back legs and bitch, I'm gonna break your arm today.
My first injury was I broke my big toe in practice, and I was like 11. So I was like, "Mom, I broke my toe." And she goes, "So what? You got 9 other toes. Come talk to me when you only got 1 left." And she made me run laps around the mat for the rest of the night. I think to make me prove to myself that broken toe was something that I could push through. I cried every single practice from like 2002 to 2005, I think. 2006 and a half. I went from unranked to #1 in the country. I won the Pan American Championships and made the Olympic team.
Rhonda was the youngest competitor in the entire field. 4 years later, she became the first American woman to ever earn an Olympic medal in judo.
My dad was the first thing I thought of. He was a veteran, so they buried him with the flag on his coffin, and they folded it up into a little triangle, and I kept it for a very long time. And when I went to the Olympics, I specifically brought it with me. And right after I won the bronze medal, I looked up and saw my mom in the stands, and they were waving it. After the Olympics, I was like, "Look, I'm tired of this. I'm tired. Like, I need to take a year off." So I went home, and I took a year to just bartend and be normal, so I wouldn't feel like I was missing out on things.
After a year, Rhonda began training MMA.
At first, I thought MMA was the stupidest idea I had ever heard.
5, good.
One of the reasons I thought it was a stupid idea is because there was no professional path for women. Women weren't making any money at it. So it's sort of like if I said, my dream is to go out and make it in professional competitive embroidery. You know, there's no such thing. So what a stupid waste of time.
Don, good.
Ronda Rousey has really blazed a trail for women's MMA, thanks largely to her ability to dominate and cross over into the mainstream. Women who are fighting in leagues like Invicta can look ahead and say, there's a future for me in this sport. I can fight in the UFC someday.
The first ever UFC Women's Champion, Ronda Rousey.
I love people doubting me. I'm more motivated by proving people wrong than fulfilling everyone's expectations. started coming in here, and I would just come in and hit the bag and stuff like that. And I would just bug everybody, like, help me with this, help me with this, help me with that. Like, no one would really go out of their way to teach me.
When Ronda first arrived in my gym, her striking was, she didn't know much.
Every day I'd ask Edmund, can you do mitts with me? Can you do mitts with me? He was like, nope, I'm doing this. No, I'm busy. No, I'm busy. And I just never gave up. I would try and get here early and stay and train, and I would try to be the last one to leave.
She cries if she gets hit with a punch. She cries if she messes up on a technique. She's not being a baby. She's incredibly hard on herself, and she demands perfection.
In August of 2010, Ronda had the first of 3 amateur fights.
It's a completely different experience. Like, I would feel relief when I won in judo, whereas I felt like actual excitement and joy when I won in MMA. It was something just for me.
23 years old, Ronda Rousey.
Immediately
She pushes forward.
Yeah, she just come immediately, slips out to the armbar. Beautiful transition. It's locked in, and that's extended, and that's the fight. Grabbed her with some early balance, but she does not want to be in that position. There's the armbar again. It's deep. Done.
That is the end, ladies and gentlemen.
That was just kind of like the beginning of the next part of the whole journey where I just felt like, okay, I got this.
How long do you think it's going to be until you say, you know what, I'm ready to go pro?
Strikeforce fight, the title, I'm thinking about it about a year from now.
Ronda turned pro in March of 2011 and rolled off 4 more armbar victories, all in the first minute.
Immediately, Ronda Rousey closes the distance on Julia Budd. Already going for the armbar. Belly down armbar here.
Oh, my goodness.
This is unbelievable if she gets it here.
Holy cow, that's just
It's over. Unbelievable. Ronda Rousey does it again.
Ronda felt ready for a title shot.
So I was like, how should I go about this? And I was like, you know what, I should just grab the microphone and ask for the fight. Guys do it all the time. Chicks never do it. People will love it.
Please, Strikeforce, I really want to have a title fight against Miesha Tate. I don't want to take a risk on her losing. Please, give me a crack at Tate. I swear I'll put on a good show.
As soon as the trash talking started, these girls just thought they knew. They thought they knew, but they didn't. Oh, they didn't know.
The thing about Ronda is that, you know, she's a very self-righteous person, and she's talked her way into a title fight, in my opinion.
I don't have much respect for the inconsistency of her attitude. It seems to kind of reflect that she has a little bit of a weak personality.
Let's fight. Referee Mark Matheny calls for the bell, and we are underway, and immediately Miesha Tate comes out swinging.
I've been in her head so much, she just went straight Bobby Boucher. It was like, rah, 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 rah. And, you know, I just kind of like took a second, and I was like, okay, whoop, you're going down.
And a takedown by Rousey.
It got to a point where she was trying to just backpack and hold on to me for dear life. And we sat down, and I was like, oh, I can pop out of this. And I was like, wait a minute. Her heel's right here. I felt like if I pulled out her foot the way I wanted to pull it out, I would just flash the whole audience. So I was just thinking about, how am I gonna get this happening without pulling my shorts off?
Rousey wearing tail like a backpack there momentarily, trying to scramble, trying to reverse. Backdoor escape by Rousey. Less than a minute remaining in the first round. Ronda Rousey extending the arm.
Oh, she's gonna break it.
Oh, it's over. Rousey has done it. Ronda Rousey is the new Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Champion.
My dad, wherever you are, I hope that you see this. We all miss you, we love you, and this is for you. I hope you're proud of me.
Ronda's first defense was against former champion Sarah Kaufman.
Sarah Kaufman. People were saying, oh, but this is the first really good striker Ronda's coming up against, and she's 15-1.
Oh, you've got 14 fights? That's so tough. You're such a tough girl. You know, oh, they went all 3 rounds? Good for you.
Like, we had thousands of matches in our lives, you know, and these chicks are like, I've had 14 fights. That's right. This girl has no chance against me, no experience at all. I was like, I'm just gonna go straight into her face right at the beginning.
So Rousey comes out swinging.
Sarah Kaufman train defending the armbar because you know that's her signature move. And she still submitted Sarah Kaufman in 54 seconds.
Rousey has full mount and already going for the arm. Kaufman's lone loss came via, and it's over. Rowdy Ronda Rousey continues to amaze me. 6 pro bouts, 6 first-round armbars.
Rowdy Ronda
It was one of my most perfect fights. You could see in the picture me doing the armbar at the very end. The one person sitting in front of it that got the first row seat to see the arm going out was like this Dana sitting right there. It's almost like I walked in there and threw it and I did the armbar and I was like, that's for you, almost, you know what I mean? Like, look at that, ignore that. Can't ignore that, it's right in front of your face. After that, he came to LA and I met him at some restaurant and he was like, you wanna know what's important about this restaurant? And I'm like, what? And it was like a year ago, TMZ stopped me while I was coming out of this restaurant and I said that women's MMA would never be in the UFC.
When are we gonna see women in the UFC, man?
Never.
Now we're back in this restaurant and I'm telling you the women's MMA is gonna be in the UFC. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
I don't think there should be any area in society where we say women aren't allowed to do this. So I think she has broken through that barrier and broken through it in a very smart way.
There's a certain danger in achieving your goals because sometimes you might be left with no direction. So every single time something great happens, I take a few minutes to do a little dance, and then I'm like, okay, next thing.
After the Russian sauna, just a little bit of beer is good calories. You know, just to rest, go to sleep good.
Yeah, I think recovery is just as important as training, and one of the things that made me grow tired of judo is no one cared whether or not it was fun or whether or not I was having a good time.
So though I'm very happy with a lot of my accomplishments, I'm never really satisfied with them, and I always have a new one in mind. And right now, that's winning my fight.
We work hard, we charged it all day, and one beer, it's actually good for you. Mentally. You need those.
I grew up in Okinawa, Japan. My father was in the Air Force, and when my parents separated, my mom stayed, she got remarried. I didn't drink until I was 21. I didn't go out to parties. I played soccer. I worked 2 jobs, and that was my whole focus in life up until I joined the military. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was an aviation electrician, so I worked on helicopters and anything that had a wire going to it. I went to Iraq 3 times. My 3rd tour, I extended just so I could go out for one more. I started getting into martial arts in my last tour to Iraq. I bought some books and I watched videos thinking I could train myself. And then when I get back to the States, then I could really jump into MMA.
About 2 years ago, Liz walked in and she was still in the Marines and she wanted to try the class.
She got bloodied her first minute into practice. Somebody busted her nose, and she just smiled, wiped it off. Coach said, oh, you want to take a break? She said no. She ran right back in the cage. She eventually mounted one of our more experienced guys, and she started gorilla punching him. And that was the end of that, you know? That's how she got the gorilla, man.
Liz Gorilla Carmouche!
She was like a wild animal. You know what I mean? I knew from the moment I met her, I had something special.
When they gave us the phone call for Strikeforce, it was kind of like, hey, this is an opportunity we can take. Are you ready for it? I'm like, I have no idea if I'm ready for it. If you guys tell me I'm ready for it, I'm a Marine. I'll do exactly what you tell me to do.
Carmouche comes out storming. Schneider backs her up along the fence immediately.
We put the girl against the cage, beat her up, and we didn't allow her to do anything.
Liz Carmouche!
Next thing we know, we're fighting Jan Finney and Strikeforce.
There it is. Beautiful.
I think they wanted Liz to be like a sacrificial lamb.
Oh, and there's an attempt at a throw, a judo throw by Carmouche.
Liz beat the out of her.
Oh, there's some big right hand. Carmouche keeping her in her sights.
Nobody expected I was going to win. Certainly not beat her up and finish her.
Back, stop.
What a victory to Liz Carmouche.
And then Miesha Tate dropped out of the title fight against Marlos Conan.
This women's 135-pound bout is underway.
With only about 8 months of training, we gave the champion everything we had.
Carmouche immediately backs her up into the fence, and Carmouche very strong.
This completely unknown fighter who had only been on some of the Strikeforce Challenger cards steps up on short notice and takes it to the champion for over 3 rounds.
Liz Carmouche with hammer fist, ground and pound, delivering all kinds of damage to the champion.
At the end of that fight, even though I lost it, that for me was a victory.
What about Liz Carmouche? I think her stock shot way up. That's girl power, man. She went out and put it on the champ.
It told me that I was better than I thought I was, and that I deserved to be competing at that level.
Liz had also made another, more personal discovery.
It took me a long time to realize that I was a lesbian. It didn't actually come out until I was 22.
1, 2, 3, awesome!
When I got out of the Marine Corps and I was getting into MMA, being in this gym and being in San Diego helped me come into my own and come out.
That's right. A guy's laying on top of you. And you're just letting it happen. That's what gay is. What the hell?
I called my sister and I was like, hey, I don't know. I think I might be bi, gay. Yeah. Who are you kidding? I already knew that. Mom does too. You do? Yeah. We knew years ago.
She said, by the way, I'm gay. I go, yeah, I know.
From day one, Manny was trying to out me.
I go, what do you think of this chick over here? Pretty hot, right? She's like, she's all right. And I go,
Push up. Come up. Backhand.
she actually met her girlfriend here.
Don't take your knees.
Her girlfriend, Elisa, is one of our boxers.
I get to use my new gloves today.
How was that? Open?
I say I get to use.
Oh.
What first attracted me to her was she was punching people's faces, but she was still being a girl about it. I could still see the feminine side to her, and and her muscles were bulging too, so that didn't hurt.
She kind of stalked me a little bit because she saw my bod, so I kind of won her over. And she was straight at the time.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't know that I was really attracted to women at all until I met Liz. So thank you.
I think Liz coming out openly is a big deal for her or any athlete in the sport.
Definitely heard that I'm a pioneer for gay and lesbian rights, for the LGBT community, and that to me is amazing. I never thought that when I was in the military and I was still hiding and I still hadn't embraced it myself, that I would become a pioneer for them. That's just crazy to me.
A very supportive girlfriend and family, and a very proud mixed martial artist, Liz Gorilla Carmouche.
My fan club is the Lizbos. It's kind of a play on word between Lesbos and Liz. And people have been taking that like a coat of arms and just wearing it around. It's been pretty awesome.
Last April, Liz's fans watched her tear apart Ashley Curry.
Spinning back fist by Carmouche immediately. A takedown attempt, and gets it.
She looked like she was afraid.
Curry with her eyes closed. She is in a world of trouble here.
And I saw it in her right away and went for it.
Oh, man, come on, man.
Right there.
And that's it, Liz Gorilla Carmouche.
And then the last bout was against Caitlin Young. She knocked out Miesha Tate.
Serious.
I knew she was heavy-handed, and I saw it in her face when I took the hardest kick and the hardest punch she had and just kept looking her in the face. I knew that I'm like, okay, I have her now.
Oh, there's some big right hands here. Looking for the rear naked choke is Liz Carmouche. And then forced to tap out. Liz Gorilla Carmouche picks up her second win via submission.
4 months later, when the UFC signed Ronda Rousey, Liz campaigned to be her first opponent.
We Twitter bombed Dana White until he could not stand us anymore. Making sure that day in and day out that he knew that we were the ones who won the fight.
There wasn't a single day I didn't turn on my Twitter and I didn't see Liz Carmouche being like, give me this fight. Please don't want this fight. Please don't want this fight. Make this happen.
We wanted it because we wanted that belt. She wants to prove that she's the #1 girl in the world. And I'm right behind her.
What an athlete! What What a victory!
I've imagined Dana White putting the belt around my waist. I've imagined shaking his hand. The announcer saying, for our new champion. I've played it all out, and it sounds good.
That's it. Tap it or snap it.
6 pro bouts, 6 first-round armbars. She is the armbar queen, Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
Dana White has gone on record as saying that every other contender in the women's 135 division didn't want this fight. They were intimidated. They were scared by Ronda Rousey.
Believe me, people aren't kicking the doors down at Zuffa to fight her.
I do think that everybody's afraid of Rousey. I think that's kind of been one of those things that has hindered people, is that they step in there with fear when they see her. She does a good job of psyching people out before she goes in there, and I'm not the type of person that's gonna be psyched out. Trying to play mind games with a Marine just isn't gonna work well, especially someone who's been to combat.
She is pretty much impossible to intimidate, so I won't have that advantage that I usually try to play up with every other fight.
I think she's very strong mentally, but as an athlete, Ronda's at a different level. She's nowhere near as an athlete as Ronda is.
And there she is. There it is, looking for the armbar.
When she throws those hips over and locks that armbar in, you are watching a person who has done that move 1,000,000 times.
Oh, she's gonna break it.
Oh, it's over!
We've been preparing Liz for arm bars for months. Arm bar drills, arm bars every day. We even have this little bet going on right now around the gym that if you can arm bar Liz at a moment's notice, she'll buy you hamburgers. She has not had to buy one hamburger.
I'm sure it helps her a lot for her to be constantly getting armbarred like that, but I know that the people armbarring her on a daily basis aren't nearly as good as my mom. Well, if your mom woke you up in the morning jumping on top of you and being like, always be ready, armbar now, I mean, that's kind of like how it gets ingrained in your brain. I've been doing it for years and years and years and years. You could do it for a few months, you know, and good for you. You'll be better than you were, but you're not going to be as good as me.
You know who's the best in the world? She is. And anybody that doesn't say Ronda's the best, I'll annihilate, mutilate you, and cut you.
Liz's advantage is always going to be strength. It's going to be her conditioning. Her ground and pound, second to none. She's a beast. I got one warning for you, Miss Rousey. Stay off your back.
Mosh again transitions to mount. Ground and pound for Carmouche.
From the rumors that I've heard from different people that have either seen her or trained with her, there isn't much to her grappling game. And from transitions to submissions, she just doesn't really have it besides the armbar.
I think a lot of people are curious about the other aspects of Ronda Rousey's game. You know, is she great on the feet? Someone like Liz Carmouche is going to do her best to test that and test every aspect of Ronda Rousey's game.
She has an arsenal. She has more than an armbar. And that's what she is so incredibly effective at using, and why not use what works? Why reinvent the wheel?
Goes directly to the mount. That girl can grapple. Goes right to the armbar.
Liz Carmouche has to figure out how to impose her own game. She has excellent power in her hands.
6 professional fights, 6 first-round armbar. This woman is unstoppable.
She's mean, she's nasty, and she's dangerous. She's got the whole package.
Ronda Rousey again pulls off the unbelievable.
This is trouble! Looking to finish the fight! It's all over!
Rowdy Ronda Rousey.
She is dangerous.
Big right hand! Big right hand!
Liz Carmouche.
For the first ever UFC Women's Championship.
me tell you something. Don't ever sleep on Dan Henderson. One of the best fighters in the game. He front kicked him in the face. He's out. Lyoto Machida. Oh, he's out. He's out. He's out. What a fight.
This is history in the making.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Tim Ryan, the president of the Honda Center. It's my pleasure to officially welcome the UFC and all of you back to Orange County. We've had an incredible partnership with Dana, the entire UFC organization over the years, and we've been thrilled to share in some of the most historic moments. Those include hosting the first ever UFC event in the state of California, the first UFC event on Fox, 2 heavyweight title fights, and now the first ever women's title bout in UFC history. It goes without saying that Orange County and the Honda Center, we love the UFC. We're looking forward to another packed house on Saturday night. We can't wait to feel the energy of another night of history in the making. It's my pleasure right now to introduce a friend of mine, a true sports visionary, and you know him as the president of the UFC, Dana White. Dana?
How are you? Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks. Is this working? Can you hear me? Can you hear the hammer? Can you hear the hammer? Yes? Hammer. Can you hear me? No? How about now? No? How about now? There we go. All right. Late, stuff doesn't work. Starting this thing off right. So, we're excited, pumped up for this fight. This is without a doubt the most media attention we've ever had leading up to a fight, without a doubt. And when I talk about media attention, I'm talking about big time media. And I told some of you yesterday when we talked, this gate beat the last gate when we were here, which was the heavyweight championship between Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos. And, you know, I know there was a lot of smack talk in the originally when I announced this fight about headlining with 2 women. Well, again, I said what would happen, and here we are. This gate's bigger, and there's been all this talk about pay-per-view buys and wondering how the women would do. I just talked to Lorenzo, and this fight is trending very well. So to all the people, all the naysayers, and everybody who said this and that about 2 women headlining a fight, I won't be rude, but you know what I usually say about this. Very well. Better than everybody thought it would do. You know you're not getting the number anyway, but you know what I'm saying. It's going to be a big fight. Who has the first question? John?
Dana, obviously the build-up to this fight, the videos and everything, they've shown you over and over with the clip where you said, you know, never would there be women's MMA. What do you feel like when you see that now? Do you cringe when you see that video, or what do you think?
No, I don't. It's funny because, you know, I said that on TMZ, and every interview that I have done leading up to this fight this week, they played that clip and said where I said never. And actually, the way that I look at it is, you know, there's a lot of, not just me, but there was a lot of people that felt very negative about women fighting in the sport. And then I didn't realize how many people would be so negative about 2 women headlining a card. But after I did my homework and I saw some of these fights, I got into it and I met the girls, it is the right thing to do. And you know, I'm proud to be standing here today announcing, you know, that this fight is going to happen in 2 days.
And I've heard this week a lot of comparisons actually to Brock Lesnar as far as the amount of interest in somebody debuting in the UFC. Is that a fair comparison?
No, she blows him out of the water. No fighter has ever fought in the UFC that has had more attention than she has. It's a fact. And I didn't, honestly, going into this thing, I didn't know that would happen. I think HBO and Time Magazine and all these other outlets that never cover us would. I didn't see that happen. And if they did, I didn't think it was going to be positive. I thought it was going to be freak show. Nobody pulled the freak show card. Nobody has really smashed the main event on this card, and it's been pretty cool.
And last question for you: everybody's trying to figure out, you know, going forward, what does it mean if Ronda wins? What does it mean if Liz wins?
Right.
You know, how does that impact women's MMA? How much do you think the future? I know you have more fights already booked, but how much do you think the future of women in the UFC hinges on what happens in this one fight?
Well, I think, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, and that's the thing that I had to point out to everybody the commitment that we made to women's MMA. Ronda gets a lot of attention, and Ronda has been, you know, a lot of the story that people want to hear. But 2 women are going to fight on Saturday night, and one of them's going to win. And whoever wins will then defend the title. I mean, that's the way it works. It's no different than if 2 guys were fighting tonight, you know. And I think if you watched the second episode of Primetime, you know, I think Lucia Riker said it best. You know, in any sport, there's a couple people that really stand out and become big stars, and that's true in this sport or any other sport. And she has definitely been that person, not just in women's fighting, in MMA in general. HBO wasn't coming to try to do stories on us. I flew from Las Vegas to Los Angeles because they asked me to, sat down and interviewed for an hour, didn't put 1 word of what I said in there. I might as well stay at home. You know what I mean? They want to talk to her. So, I like it. Next question.
Question for Lyoto, if I could, please. Lyoto, I wanted to ask you about sort of your striking defense record. You know, if you look at the fight metric stats in your first 7 UFC fights, you were well above average, the hardest guy to hit. In your last 6 fights, you're hit much more often. Why do you think that is, and is there anything in your game that you've worked on to try to change to get back to that elusiveness that you had early on?
Ele perguntou o que você acha que mudou na sua defesa em pé, que nas suas primeiras lutas no UFC você tinha um recorde de ser o menos atingido. O que mudou no seu jogo de ser elusivo?
Eu acho que você, lógico, quanto mais você luta, mais previsível você vai ficando, né? Então, acho que as pessoas estudam bastante também e eu acho que é normal, você está lutando no alto nível, então isso pode acontecer.
I think the more that you fight, the more predictable you become, and people study you more. So people just kind of learn what you're going to do, and you're more prone to get hit.
So when they learn that, you know, it's like in baseball, they say you have to make an adjustment to a pitcher. So what adjustment do you make? Because you're facing a guy that probably has one of the best right hands in the sport.
E quando você vê isso, que você mudou no teu jogo para encarar dos caras que pode ser mais perigoso com o teu jogo?
Eu acho que eu sempre estou mudando o meu jogo, sempre estou tentando melhorar. Né, e eu trouxe alguns sparring parecidos um pouco com o jogo do Dan Henderson para que eu possa me adaptar ao estilo, né, que eu me adaptei.
I'm always trying to improve, and this time I brought a bunch of different partners that could simulate Dan Henderson's style.
And then one more question for you, Lyoto. You know, you had the opportunity to fight Jones, and you felt like there wasn't enough time. What do you think would be different if you beat Dan and got the opportunity to fight Jones? How would you fight him differently for the title, since you know what happened the first time around?
Como é que seria lutar com o John Jones agora pela segunda vez? O que seria diferente?
Com certeza eu ia mudar algumas coisas, né? Mas é difícil falar porque ele não é o meu próximo passo, né? Eu só estou focado realmente no Dan Henderson e quando isso vier a acontecer um dia de novo, aí sim eu posso falar sobre.
I think definitely a lot of things would be different, but it's hard to say right now. My focus is on Dan Henderson, and that's another step in my career.
And then, Dana, a couple of questions for you. First of all, the significance of the fight for Lyoto. He's been, you know, win one, lose one, that type of thing. What do you need to see from him on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a win is a big deal, but I love this fight. Stylistically, I think it's a great fight. You know, Machida has a style where he lays back and counterpunches, and Henderson is move forward. He's aggressive, in your face the entire time. I think that the fight's going to be a great fight, and this fight's all about the winner. The winner gets a shot at John Jones.
And then lastly, talking about the women going forward, and you know, kind of the women behind me.
Yeah, that's why they're here. The ladies, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Again, when I was talking about the commitment to the women's division, these women are here, right here. You got Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, Alexis Davis, and Kat Zagano. So if any of the media wants to talk to them, they're all right here in the second row when we're done and start doing the scrums. But go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
And I guess I was going to compare it to sort of like when you brought the bantamweights on. You know, the UFC fans maybe didn't know the bantamweights other than the hardcore ones. So how do you integrate them in to get these people so they're big, so that when they fight the champion, whether it's Liz or Ronda, that people know who they are?
Yeah, it's no different than anything we've done since the beginning when we bought this company. You know, we put fights on free TV and we put fights on pay-per-view. And you know, like I said, these women are talented. They belong here, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna fight on a card, whether it's pay-per-view, undercards, or on free TV, and they're gonna prove it. Just like every other person that's come into the UFC. People were mad when we went below 155, and then, oh, they're gonna go below 145, and oh, now they're bringing in women? Shut up. Shut up, all right? We know what we're doing. Tune in, watch the fights. These people have been training their whole lives. They're the best in the world, and that's why they're here.
Hey guys, Ron Kruk with Access TV. Question for Robbie Lawler. Robbie, it's been almost 10 years since you last fought in the UFC, UFC 50. Talk about coming back and just what it means for you being a part of the promotion again.
It's very, it's on. Can you hear me? It's very exciting. I didn't realize it was that long. Makes me feel old. I'm excited to fight. I've been training hard, and this is a great opportunity, and happy to be here.
How about some thoughts about your opponent, Josh Koscheck?
Josh has got a lot of fights in the UFC. He's a big, strong wrestler, strong stand-up, and it's going to be a war. I'm ready to go.
And a quick question for Dana. Dana, do you know, are we approaching a sellout here in Anaheim?
Yeah. We're a few hundred tickets away from a sellout. And the gate's so big because all the tickets that have sold, the ones that are left are all the cheap seats, which is very unusual. Usually you get in these situations and it's more the middle tier seats that are the ones that are still hanging out there. These are all the cheapest seats in the place. So this is going to be a sellout.
Hi, this is Rafa from Univision. Question for Ronda and Liz. You know, everything's being mentioned here about how big this card is, how historic, and how much is on the line for women's MMA. Can you put into words what it means to you guys to be part of this, the biggest women's MMA fight today?
It's an honor. I mean, this is a dream come true. This is something that when I first got into MMA that I imagined being a part of history. And for that dream to be only days away, I can't even put in words really describing what it is. It's an honor, and I'm grateful for the experience and excited to be here.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what she said. I'm very honored to be here, and this is a huge deal, but I'm not really going to sit back and enjoy and relish any of this until after the fight's already done and I've won.
How about you, Dana? What was the trigger point for you to make the never become a reality in women's MMA?
Well, like I said, and I've always been straight up and honest about it. When I met her, that was the moment. I said that, you know, she's the real deal. And the Miesha Tate fight, you know. I was talking to somebody about, I did a radio show this morning, and we were talking about, you know, how guys are perceiving the women, okay? I said 99% of the guys in this country get in the same armbar that Miesha Tate was in, okay? Not only would they tap, they'd be screaming and crying like babies. She got out of that armbar, the first one, got in the second one, cranked back like that, and you know, that's something different. It's something that most people don't have, and what that is, that's what makes you a real fighter. You either are or you are not. And from what I've seen from these girls who have fought, they are. You know what I mean? You don't see people get put in an armbar like that and handle it the way that she handled it. Pretty badass.
Question for the guys, the legends on the table. What do you guys think about women's MMA? I know George St. Pierre got into a little trouble with Miesha and you and Ronda about, you know, his opinions about women's MMA and women's fighting. What do you guys think about this fight card Saturday night?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm a fan. I've got women that train at my gym all the time, and you know, are hoping to get where these women have gone. So I mean, I'm a big fan, and you know, I'm excited that I get to watch the last fight after I'm done.
Eu acho que assim, acho que eu tô, o UFC um dia ia chegar esse momento de abrir as portas para o público feminino também lutar, e eu fico feliz de fazer parte desse evento, sendo parte também do card do evento principal, sendo as mulheres.
I believe there would come a time when the UFC would open its doors to the women fighting, and I'm happy to be on this card with women headlining it.
I think it's a good thing for our sport. You know, like Dana said, it's bringing a lot of new attention to the sport. You know, and a lot of new media, and hopefully they can build a good enough group of girls that can come in and compete at the top level. So, I think it's good for our sport.
I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. These girls have trained hard. I mean, you've seen some of these girls fight. They go out there and they bang it out. They're doing everything else everyone else is doing, and women's sports, it's going to grow, definitely.
Dana, what do you think about Liz's fans really, pulling for her to get this fight? We saw on the video it looked pretty intense. They were really trying to get her to the fight.
What are you talking about? Maybe I missed that one. What, her fans were?
Yeah, on Twitter apparently there was like a big, effort to get Liz to fight. Did you know about her before this?
Yeah, I knew about her. Yeah, we had started diving into this thing and looking at who we thought the top girls were, and who made sense for this fight and the time. Again, it's all about timing and everything else. And Liz was perfect. And I told Liz, I told her, I couldn't be happier with the two women that are representing the first fight in UFC history. You know what I mean? If you look at both of their stories, and I think that this prime time that we did is one of the best we've ever done. It's impossible to watch this show and not be invested in a fight and want one or the other to win. So the answer is yes. I mean, I literally, and you know how I am. I'll tell you guys if I didn't feel a certain way. I could not be happier with the way that this entire thing has gone, and I know it's just the beginning of good things to come.
Question for Rhonda over here in the corner. Your mom said earlier this week that when you first told her you wanted to be an MMA fighter, her response was, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." Do you remember that conversation, and what was your response to that?
Yeah, I remember that conversation very well, and I expected her reaction to be as such. But because she was working at USC at the time, and she wanted to help me go to school and stuff like that, and I just asked her to give me 1 year. That's all I asked for. I knew that it sounded ridiculous, and I knew that no one believed that it would go anywhere. And I just said that if after this 1 year, if I can't make it happen, then I'll go to school, do whatever you want. And so my pro debut was March 23rd, 2011, and I won the title on March 3rd of 2012. So ever since then, I mean, it kind of feels good to make your, I don't know if my mom ever said I was wrong and you were right, but I like to think that her look in her face says that a little bit. It was really nice to do that. It was fun because now me and her have a much different relationship, and there's a lot more respect between the two of us.
So she never officially came up to you before the Tate fight or after and said, "All right, this was a smart move"?
No, she said that she was extremely proud of me, and that's all I needed to hear.
And then one for Robbie over here. Why decide at this point in your career to go down to 170?
Really, guys were cutting a lot of weight, and I was just kind of walking around at the weight I was fighting at, which I like to do. I just like to fight and compete, and I think for me to fight at a higher level, I think I need to cut a little bit of weight, and I knew I was going to come back to the UFC, and I wanted to cut down to 170 when I did it.
How was the weight cut?
Well, I'm not down there yet, but it'll be easy.
And it seemed to me when you were fighting for Elite XC, Strikeforce, we would watch you, you would be cornering guys, you'd say hi to Dana on the stage at the weigh-ins and whatnot. I always got the impression that you always wanted to come back here, end your career here. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this is the big show. I think the first time I was here, I didn't really want to do everything. I just wanted to fight. Just come in here and fight. I didn't want to do the PR. I didn't want to talk to the media. Now I think I'm ready for that, and I'm excited to be here.
Okay, and then just one last one for Josh. Obviously, with your change of camps, where I was interested in who's in your corner on fight night, who will be in your corner on Saturday?
Jasper, my Muay Thai coach, Bob Cook, and T, my boxing coach. So I got a good group of guys I'm working with, and I'm really excited.
Thanks.
Those questions for Dana here. UFC's audience is about 25% female. What is your hope for the female demographic going forward after this fight?
It's interesting. This thing is, we've never done it before. Who knows? I mean, will women fighting make more women want to watch fighting? I don't know. were more 135-pound guys watching after we did that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Hopefully it does. That's what I would like to see. And I think, what I do think is going to happen, like I've been saying, she came from judo, went to the Olympics. There's women who wrestle. There's women who do taekwondo. There's women who do other martial arts. And the fact that you can come here now and actually make a living and make money and remain a professional athlete, I think is going to have a huge impact on the sport. If you look at how much the sport has grown and how many people train and how many fighters there are all over the world now after just 13 years, and if you look at how much the men have evolved in those 13 years, and now you see all these women out here that are really that talented, I think it's really going to blow up over the next few years. It's pretty interesting.
And for Liz and Ronda, how much of your interaction with fans has been with females directly?
I would say it's just about a split. There is certainly more men that follow the UFC and are MMA fans that approach, but through social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, I've certainly had a lot of women that have approached and given lots of support for this.
And sorry, I lost eye contact with the guy who asked the question.
Right.
There you are. Yeah, it's been about 50-50, and considering, like I said before, that women really make up a quarter of the UFC fan base, that it's been half and half. I think there really are a whole lot more women involved in this fight. I've seen a lot of feedback saying that a lot of girls are watching their first UFC fight, or they're pulling together to have a UFC fight party, things that they've never done before. So I think that this is bringing a whole lot of new fans in as well.
AJ Perez, FoxSports.com. As for Ronda, you said this week on UFC Primetime that you kind of are driven by proving people wrong. At this point, who do you have left to prove wrong?
Well, all the people that think that I don't deserve this belt and I didn't earn it, I partially agree with them. I think that I won't consider myself really UFC champion until I win a belt inside the octagon, and that's why you're not going to see me touching or carrying that belt until after I win this fight.
Thanks.
I have no clue. I don't know what it is. Somebody in my company probably knows. I don't. Anybody in my company that's here know that answer?
80% of statistics are made up.
80%? She said 80% of statistics are made up. Huh? 35. Your information from? 35.
Well, it's 2011.
I'm kidding. I don't know. Who the hell knows? I hope it's 55. Any other questions? That's it? You're done with us? All right, I'm going to rip this stuff out of here, and we'll square these guys off for photo ops. Thank you so much for coming today, and I'm sorry I was late.
Hey, Brett.
If somebody wants some help.
Translator, okay. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, man.